What's good, everybody? This is Robo from All Bark back with another video. Today I'm going over my 2023-24 NBA Power Rankings as we stand in the middle of the offseason. This season is one of the harder years to predict as there are so many teams within range of each other. We could see a situation this year where the 5 seed and the 12 seed are only separated by a couple of games, which could mean for some really fun basketball throughout the year. With that said though, let's go ahead and get started with the Power Rankings. Starting off at number 30, I have the Washington Wizards, who I don't see being as bad as previous worst teams, but definitely in a spot where they're looking to tank for draft position and rebuild around their youth. They're in a decent spot thanks to some recent moves, bringing in Jordan Poole and Tyus Jones via trades, as well as re-signing Kyle Kuzma. So like I said, they won't be unwatchable, but definitely one of the top contenders for worst records for me. Next up at number 29 is the Portland Trail Blazers, who still haven't shipped off Damian Lillard, but it likely will be for several picks rather than players, and they'll rebuild around Scoot, Simons, and Sharp, which is a very good but young trio that likely won't win many games, but it'll be very exciting to watch. Jeremy Grant will be a trade candidate for sure, as he doesn't really fit the timeline the Blazers are looking at right now, so I'll be looking forward to that in the future. Coming in at number 28 is the San Antonio Spurs, who won the offseason by landing Victor Wembanyama in the draft. I don't see the Spurs competing for a play-in spot this season just yet, considering the lack of free agent additions and the high chance Wemby gets load managed for a lot of the games this season to maintain his health. In the coming years, this team could be a title contender, but as of right now, I think the main focus would be on building Wemby's frame up and getting his body conditioned for a full season. The Charlotte Hornets come in at number 27, but this could definitely be a sleeper team as they're getting Miles Bridges back after a 10-game suspension, and they add in Brandon Miller to a fairly deep offensive team. If LaMelo can stay healthy this year, this team has what it takes to make a leap, but with how deep the East is, as well as the lack of defense on the roster, I'm not sure the ceiling's any higher than a play-in spot, pretty similar to my next few teams on the list out of the same Eastern Conference. The number 26 spot goes to the Detroit Pistons, who are a team I could see making a play-in push. Despite only grabbing 17 wins last year, this team won 23 in Cade's rookie season, and have since added Bojan, Alec Burks, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Durant, Asar Thompson, and Joe Harris to the roster. Because of the depth of the East now, it'll be tough for the Pistons to make the jump they hope to make, but they've got the talent to be a lot better, and with the recent news out of Team USA camp that Cade Cunningham is leading the USA select team to scrimmage wins over the real Team USA, I think a breakout all-star level year from Cade is coming, and it could position Detroit in the mix for a 9 or 10 seed later on in the year. The Chicago Bulls are my 25th ranked team, and they definitely could outplay this as they still have Levine, DeRozan, and Vucevic, and some quality bench vets added in, and they look to be going for the playoffs one more time. However, with Lonzo Ball missing the entire year again, it's hard to see this Bulls team not enter a rebuild mid-season, offloading some of those guys for future picks to help reshape their future. At number 24, the Houston Rockets look to make a leap this season as their front office offloaded some of their youth and brought in Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks in free agency, as well as Jock Landale to help back up Sengun this season. I love the Amen Thompson pick as well, but it's likely he starts the year off on the bench behind Fred and Green, as the front office clearly is tired of being a bottom feeder in the NBA and looks to make a play-in spot rather than prioritizing the development of their young guys. The Toronto Raptors come in at the 23 spot in a similar situation as the Chicago Bulls, but with a bit more to work with. I definitely think they'll take a step back, downgrading from Fred to Dennis Schroeder at point guard, but the front office believes they still have a playoff talent, and another run is worth going for. If things don't go to plan though, I would expect Siakam and OG to be on the trade block or on the deadline, as they likely rebuild around Scotty Barnes for the future. Number 22 is the Utah Jazz, as they had an incredible draft in my opinion, adding in Taylor Hendricks, Keontae George, and Bryce Sensabaugh to an already solid core of Lowry, Kessler, and Clarkson, and on top of it they made a move landing John Collins to help out at the 4 spot. I don't think this Jazz team will replicate and improve on the same success they had last year, but they should still see somewhat similar results, pushing for a play-in spot and being a tough beat all year in the West. The 21st spot on my power rankings went to the Brooklyn Nets, who are fairly hard to rank as they could end up completely flopping and tank for a better draft position, or completely work and make the playoffs. For now, I'll put them here, but we'll see what a full season of Option 1 Mikal Bridges looks like, as well as big roles for Cam Johnson and Nick Claxton on a new-look Nets roster that finished under 500 post the trade deadline. The 20th ranked team is the Orlando Magic, coming off an impressive year behind Rookie of the Year Paolo Banchero and a stud duo partner in Franz Wagner. I think this team is definitely worthy of a play-in spot after picking up 2 lottery picks in the draft. I don't know if a playoff spot is super realistic, but the play-in is definitely a strong possibility as they've got the talent and some solid depth around Paolo, and a really bright future as one of the 5 best young cores in the NBA. At the 19th spot, I have the Atlanta Hawks, who didn't have a super eventful offseason as they offloaded John Collins and picked up Kobe Buffkin in the draft, and added a quality veteran presence in Patty Mills. I think the team could boom into a playoff team again, but it's hard to say as we haven't seen them gel yet with that backcourt duo, so for now I have them kind of in the middle of the play-in race, but their ceiling's a bit higher than some other teams. It all depends on how well they defend, and if not, they can make any moves around the deadline and improve the team. If things go wrong, I can see one of Trey or DeJounte being moved to help retool the roster. The Indiana Pacers come in at 18 in my power rankings as they improved as a team big time this offseason, adding in key winning glue guy Bruce Brown and drafting another high potential glue defender in Jarris Walker. Both are excellent fits in Indiana and fit the team culture really well as they bring playmaking, defense, and intensity to the roster. This team does have the potential to be this year's Sacramento Kings, but I think it's more likely they fall in the 6 to 9 seed range, and that's why I have them here. I love their core though, and think they're really just one star player away from being a contender in that Eastern Conference. The Minnesota Timberwolves are next at 17 as they improve their depth this offseason, adding a quality guard in Shake Milton and getting a potential draft steal in Leonard Miller. I do think one of Cat or Gobert have to go for the long-term outlook of the team to improve, but they absolutely have the talent to win around 40 games or so and make a play-in or playoff appearance again this season behind Anthony Edwards, back wearing number 5, who I think is in for a massive year this season. The number 16 team in the NBA this season for me is the Oklahoma City Thunder, who add in Vasilij Micic on the wing off the bench, and rookie Cason Wallace could provide some great defense at the guard spot, on top of former second overall pick Chet Holmgren's very hype return to action. This team absolutely has what it takes to make a major leap, but I do believe they overachieved just a little bit last season and were very slept on by opponents while SGA was an absolute killer all year. I don't see a major leap being super likely, but the playoffs are absolutely in play for OKC, and I think they'll finish at 500 or better this year behind SGA's rise to stardom. At number 15, I have the Los Angeles Clippers, who are a tough team to rank due to the injury frequency of their stars and just the whole unsureness of the roster as a whole. The middle of the pack is probably the safest bet for them, although talent-wise there's no doubt they could be a top 10 team in the league, but the health concerns are too much to make that prediction in my opinion. I love the KJ Martin addition as he'll be able to provide some solid minutes at the wing spot for the amount of time Kawhi is going to miss while he recovers from his injury. Number 14 goes to the New York Knicks, who bring back a solid roster who made the second round of the playoffs last year, besides trading Obi Toppin to the Pacers. Nothing new really for the Knicks, though that could change as the season's still 2 months away. I don't necessarily think they'll be better than last year because of the lack of roster improvement and the opposite saying for the rest of the East, but they should be back in the playoffs and hopefully they can make a deeper run this year behind Brunson, Randle, and Barrett. The Dallas Mavericks come in next at 13, and I love the offseason they had. They were able to get off the Bertans contract while still drafting the 2 guys they wanted in Derek Lively and Omax Prosper, and they are able to extend Kyrie Irving and add in Grant Williams, Seth Curry, and Rashawn Holmes. This team really lacked depth, defense, and chemistry last year, and all 3 areas got addressed, although there's still some concerns down low and on the defensive end. I think Dallas is a defended playoff team, play in at worst, but it remains to be seen just how strong of a team they really can be, and I would expect the deadline to be a huge time for the Mavericks to get better. Number 12 is the New Orleans Pelicans, who add Zion Williamson back in the mix after a ton of offseason trade rumors, and picked up Jordan Hawkins' elite shooting in the draft. This team hopes to be as good as they were projected to by some last year, but for now I'm going to rank them right in that 6 to 9 seed range in the West with a ton of great teams around them and some health concerns with Zion still to be answered. If he stays healthy all year, this group will be a very tough team to face as they could be primed for a playoff run, but again, that's a big if. At 11, I have the Sacramento Kings, coming off a bit of an overachieving regular season, but they deserve the respect and they definitely have what it takes to repeat that success this season. They added in Sasha Vezenkov in a surprising free agency move, and they kept the rest of their roster intact, which allows me to rank them near a similar spot to where they were last year. One of the top teams in the West, but maybe just below the premier teams, although there's no doubt they're wanting another shot at the Warriors in 2024. The first team inside my top 10 is the Philadelphia 76ers, who as the roster stands right now are probably a bit higher up, but I'm expecting a Harden trade to either happen before the season or to linger into the year, causing some instability and chemistry issues that could end up hurting the team's record a bit. If they do trade Harden, it's not really likely they get a star player back, which is the reason why I have them here at 10, but obviously having an MVP winner in Joel Embiid and a future star in Tyrese Maxey, the 76ers would be just fine regardless. Coming in at number 9 is the Memphis Grizzlies, who will be without Ja Morant for a quarter of the season, but they added in Marcus Smart and a quality bench veteran guard in Derrick Rose that helps to do that, and they still have elite talent around the team to make sure they're still a high seed and back in the hunt to contend for the West. I was a big fan of Tyus Jones, but I do think the Grizzlies got better with Smart, and now they have the last 2 Defensive Player of the Year winners on the roster. My number 8 team for this upcoming season is the Cleveland Cavaliers, who were really lacking on the wing and with depth last season, and they fixed that a bit by scooping up Max Strus and Georges Niang in free agency. I still think they're lacking a true stud small forward on the roster, but I'm interested to see if Amani Bates can compete for any playing time at all, as he impressed me in Summer League and can end up providing some buckets off the bench for the Cavs this year. It's a bit of a tougher East down low, but I think the Cavs may be one big move away from potentially being the team to beat in the conference. At number 7, it's the Los Angeles Lakers. Some load management might make this a bit of an overrating, but I love the roster makeup for the Lakers with the additions of Gabe Vincent, Cam Reddish, Taurean Prince, Jackson Hayes, and then bringing back almost everyone from last year's group, including the deal of the offseason with a team-friendly Austin Reeves contract. I think the depth and spacing on this team is enough to push for 50 wins and a top 4 seed out west. Up next in the 6th spot is the Golden State Warriors, who I'm not sure are better than the Lakers, but likely will have the better regular season because of health. You can't ever bet against Golden State despite a weird offseason, but the team will probably be super focused on its goals this year as they gambled the future to go ahead and acquire Chris Paul, and they paid Draymond Green a big deal to keep him around over Jordan Poole. This is still the Warriors, and after a tough series against LA last season, I'm expecting Steph Curry to be out for blood this year. The team I have kicking off my top 5 is the Miami Heat, who fresh off a finals loss seem likely to be acquiring Damian Lillard for a package including Tyler Hero and a bunch of picks. If they're able to make this move happen, they'll absolutely be a top 5 team in the NBA next season. However, if the roster stands as it is today, I think it's more realistic to have them a few spots lower than this on the rankings. Lillard, Butler, and Bam is just such an unstoppable big three. I think they have a real shot to contend for the East yet again if they're able to make that trade. If not, though, I think some teams are going to be a bit better focused when playing the Heat in the playoffs next season. The number 4 team in the NBA for the upcoming season to me is the Milwaukee Bucks, coming off a brutal first-round choke last year to the Heat. I think the Andre Jackson draft edition was a solid one for the Bucks, who outside of that seem to be running back a similar roster, knowing they won't be allowing last year to be repeated again. As long as the Bucks stay healthy, they should be back to title contention status this year, behind the same group of guys and a healthier Chris Middleton. My 3rd overall team in the power rankings is the Boston Celtics, who I think are the best team in the East heading in this season. Letting Marcus Smart go is very questionable, but makes sense when you're bringing in Kristaps Porzingis to help with rim protection and floor spacing. This team is loaded once again, but it'll come down to improved Jaylen Brown and some stronger performances from Jason Tatum if the Celtics want to get back to the finals this year. My 2nd ranked team is the Phoenix Suns, who definitely have some depth concerns, but are absolutely going all in with an incredibly star-studded roster with KD, Beal, Booker, and Ayton as their core. The bench is definitely better this go-around compared to last season, but it's still lacking a bit, and that could end up catching up to the Suns come playoff time. But as an overall team, it's hard not to love what the Suns bring to the table. So much offensive firepower, I don't see many teams being able to keep up with them. Finally, my number 1 spot goes to the defending champs, the Denver Nuggets. Nikola Jokic has proved himself as the best player in the NBA, and this team deserves all the respect in the world as they've got some incredible shot makers and defenders on the floor at all times, along with the most dominant player in the league to help lead the way. There really isn't a strong argument to have them anywhere else other than 1, because even if you don't believe they'll repeat, they're going to be one of the top 5 teams in the league all year long and be back as a favorite to win it all come playoff time next year. Alright, there's my rankings for the upcoming NBA season of all 30 teams. Let me know which teams you disagree with and where you'd rank them. As I said earlier, it's really hard to rank these teams as there's so many within the same tier. Teams I could see being in the play-in this year span from probably the 10 spot all the way to the 27. So don't think I'm disrespecting your team by any means. It's just such a deep league right now, and this is more so a projection of how strong I feel a team's chances are this year. With that said though, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching once again. Feel free to like the video and subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.